Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of The New Standard. And we are bringing you the show live on draft night. And my partner in crime, Neal Coolong, will be signing in very shortly. It looks like the Steelers are on the clock and very soon. It looks like the Steelers will be making their draft pick and selection. But before we get to that, if you want to participate in the program, you can always find the show by going to YouTube and doing a search for the new standard, or you can also go to your local or any of your podcast feeds, go to the Apple podcast feed store, go to Google Play or Spotify. And following the draft now is very interesting because Twitter is so much faster than um, the regular feed that um, you kind of you're getting the picks twice as fast on Twitter, and it's so much further behind on TV. So now there's been a lot of trades. And the one thing I will say is I think that the format of the draft is much better now. I think the format is great. The picks come in a lot quicker. Um, and I think it just makes it a much more entertaining product. So, while we wait for Neil to come in, it's been very interesting when you look at this draft and you see that there's no quarterback been selected. And so that's very interesting that you haven't had any quarterback selected. So if you think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the market of a quarterback, and I think that they are, it looks like all of the quarterbacks are available. So when you think of it that way, it might make sense for the Steelers to move back and have that quarterback still there. And welcome to the program. What's up, Big Neil, my partner in crime to my left?
Ready to roll here, Lance. It's a big night. It's a fun night. It's an exciting night, and it's a bunch of stuff that I did not anticipate happening. So I'm
I don't
looking forward
think,
to seeing this.
yeah, I don't think anyone participated. I know it's hard following the picks a little bit more now because Twitter is not in sync and aligned with TV. So TV is probably at pick 18. Twitter is probably at pick 20. What surprised you so far? Are you really surprised that all the quarterbacks are available?
Uh, yeah, I am. I really thought they would. I thought the quarterbacks being who they are and the ability that they had, considering how rare it is in the NFL to have a quality quarterback, I would have thought they would have went a little bit earlier than this. And I argued all day long he was not that either Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis would not be available at 20, and it looks at the very least like one of them will be at the least. Both of them could be on the clock as the Saints are picking here, at least in the live broadcast. I'm not sure what Twitter has with it. We're going to go off the live broadcast and not Twitter here. But it looks like the Steelers will have, one of the two top quarterbacks in the draft should they want to take them. Now, Tennessee just took Treylon Burks, the fifth wide receiver in the first 18 picks of this draft. So it's not going to be a wide receiver in round one. I can tell you that. Otherwise, honestly, looks to me like quarterback is the best player available. So
And
for
and
everybody who argued against that, it's just simply not the case this year.
And I think what we're seeing is for all those people that talk about that the league, you can still win with running the football and defense. I think what it tells you as well is that this is a passing league. I mean, if you're paying attention, people want to make plays down the field and they want to get it in chunks. And you see all these receivers coming off the board. I mean, teams are putting a premium, not that there wasn't before, but there is a premium on scoring points, making big plays in the passing game, and putting points on the board. And, the running the ball 3 times to get a first down and playing solid D, there's a place for that in particular areas of the football field, but that's not a foundation that I think you can have in this current National Football League. And I think we're seeing it with so many pass catchers being drafted and so many versatile cornerbacks being drafted. You're seeing pass rushers, pass protectors, corners, and wide receivers. Those critical positions that either help you score points or take points off the board.
Yep, and I think that's what we're seeing to this point anyway. I'm sorry if I'm delayed there. I was just looking to see um, the details of the Ravens and Cardinals trade for wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown. You might have seen that, Lance. They sent him to the Cardinals. This is after they cut Miles Boykin, and in wake of the AJ Brown trade from the Titans to the Eagles. And let me say this: as far as the Steelers needing a receiver, if you could have acquired AJ Brown for what it seems Tennessee or the Eagles gave up for him, oh man, if the Steelers passed on that, I'll be all kinds of upset. What a great player he is. $100 million 4-year extension given to him by the Eagles after the trade. So a lot of wide receiver action tonight, Lance, and it speaks to everything that you just said. This is a play making league. You need to be able to get the ball down the field. You need receivers, but frankly, you need quarterbacks more. And it's the Saints pick is in here. We're going to see if they're going to go quarterback. I would imagine that they are. If it's going to be Willis or Pickett, that's really the question right now. That's going to determine who the Steelers take. They don't think there's anybody left for them to take that makes any sense for them at 20 beyond the other quarterback. Now
Yeah,
that
you
I've
got
said
the
it, I'll be
safety.
wrong.
You got the safety off the board. You got the defensive lineman off the board. I don't think there's a pass rusher that they're targeting at 20. I mean, it makes sense that it's a quarterback. It's one of the two more than likely. I know looking at the ESPN feed here, they're not showing who the pick is, but I'm sure
Seems
that
they've really stopped that in the second half of the first round here.
and I'm
They're
sure that
not revealing as many.
yeah, and I'm sure that the pick is on. I'm sure the pick is up in Twitter. One thing I will say about the National Football League, I'm not a draft guy. I don't hide saying that, but but the NFL does a fantastic job of marketing events that are not football. Like that is not actually playing the game of football. They put it in
That's
Vegas. They put a stage in the middle of the Bellagio pond. If you've ever been to Vegas and been on the strip and been in Bellagio, it's just fantastic. They got 125, probably 150,000 people going to watch something that is not football, going to watch guys in suits walk out on stage. The NFL master marketers. They're just absolutely fantastic at it. And it's a game that's continuing to grow. And there is a lust and a desire to have football back to where it was a couple of years ago prior to the pandemic, and the game is just going to continue to grow. But if you're the Steelers right here, and let's say New Orleans does not take a quarterback, do you just grab your quarterback that you want right now, or do you possibly trade back because one of those quarterbacks will probably be there towards the end of the round and you get more draft capital?
I don't think anybody would trade to the 20th overall pick in this draft for anything but a quarterback. So if you don't want them and the opportunities there to trade back, sure, go ahead and do it. But I don't know who else makes sense for them to take here. The Saints pick is in here though, Lance. Let's. Wow.
So
Wow.
it looks like with the Saints draft pick, it looks like that the quarterbacks are going to be there,
Yep.
and it's
Both
going to.
quarterbacks will be there. The Saints took Northern Iowa offensive tackle Trevor Penning, which is not a total surprise for them, but at Steelers are on the clock with either one of them. I would bet anything on this right now. It's going to be Malik Willis, and
So
just to
let's
prepare everybody for the argument now, there isn't a better player, in my opinion, on the board for what the Steelers need today
yes,
than Malik Willis.
and
They're
let's
not going to get him today, but he's the best player for that fits a position of need for them in the near future. So
and
that's
let's
just
just
it.
clarify this. And the graphic that the Steelers have on Twitter, I'm just looking at it on Twitter because I know it's going to break first. Let's just clarify, and I keep
Nope. I'm
seeing it.
sorry, Lance. Sorry, I hate to cut you off. It's confirmed the Steelers are going to draft Kenny Pickett.
Wow. So Kenny Pickett is going to be the pick. Wow. Kenny Pickett will be. And thank you, Neil, for breaking that. That's breaking news. Kenny Pickett is the pick. The Steelers will draft Kenny Pickett. And I'm surprised. I don't know if I'm surprised if it's Pickett. Um, but what this does say, though, since it's going to be Pickett, what it does say is they want a guy that's ready to play right now. That Mike Tomlin
Yep.
and the Pittsburgh Steelers And let me turn my mic back on. Sorry about that. I was having a little bit of issues with my mic. It's looking like Kenny Pickett is the guy. Neal is back. And wow, Kenny Pickett. So if and you know, I have no reason to doubt you that Kenny Pickett is the guy. Um, with that being said, it tells me that they're trying to win right now. And it tells me that Pickett is probably going to be their guy either late in this year or next year. That Kenny Pickett is the guy that they're going to move forward with, and they're comfortable with the fact that he's much further along than Malik Willis as a seasoned pocket passing quarterback.
Yeah, I think probably more than anything, what they just did was select the player that had a much better chance of being ready for them to play, if not this year, then certainly next year. I think what it says is, and I hate to be that guy, the idea here was not necessarily to let Mitch Trubisky just take over and run everything as if he's a solid, established, um, a highly respected player. I mean, they paid to get him in the door. He very well could be just kind of a lead horse for Pickett, who, in my opinion, I don't think it would take Pickett very long to be ready to go in and play. Now, how good he's going to be, that's kind of a different story. But I don't know how good Mitch Trubisky is going to be. You know, it's not. Pickett has far more upside than Trubisky does. I could see Pickett being in a position to start at some point this season, should they need to do that. Now, Mike Tomlin has shown himself to be a coach who will bench a quarterback who's not performing particularly well, unless that quarterback's name is Ben Roethlisberger. Clearly, though, they're not dealing with a Ben Roethlisberger. Rudolph got benched. Hodges got benched. I don't see a reason why Mitch Trubisky, shows up and automatically is written in blood that he's the starter for 17 games. So Pickett is the more right now option, like you said. Suggesting they're a win right now, I would add to this. They have a much more solid year two plan in place with Pickett, probably than they would with Willis. And I'll be honest, I probably would have taken Willis. I could understand why they wouldn't. I don't know how many scenarios they thought. Maybe I'm wrong about this because I read the situation wrong, obviously. But I wonder if they really legitimately thought both Pickett and Willis would be on the board for them at 20. I think it's the right move for them in a lot of ways. I would have been okay with either one of them, and I am. And like I said, teasing into it, I think they took what made sense for them as the best player available. I'm not sure who's left. I mean, Jermaine Johnson, Eden Prairie, Minnesota's own Jermaine Johnson, nice player. I kind of like him. I'm not sure he should be available at 20. I'm not sure he fits with the Steelers particularly well either. So it makes a lot of sense to me, Lance. I like the pick. Good for them. It's a good story. We got to hear all about Dan Marino for the entire offseason, what's left of it. We'll get over it.
I don't have a problem with Pickett being a pick, but for me, they needed to address quarterback. If they think Pickett is the guy, Pickett's the guy, or they think Willis is the guy, I don't have a problem with it. I think quarterback was their biggest need. Going forward in the draft, we're looking at their offensive playmakers. I think they still have to hit 2 wide receivers in this draft. And I think they need a Stephon Tuitt replacement, and I think they need a corner as well. It'll be very interesting to see what they do day 2. They need playmakers. They need juice. They do not have juice on this football team on the offensive side of football. I think with the return of Edmonds, they're solid there. I could see safety at some point in time in this draft being a pick that they look at, or a player or a position that they look at. But I think they've got to get some offensive playmakers. We talked about it on a couple shows ago that their wide receiver group might be the worst in football, and their running back group, the running back room might be the second worst in football. They just need much more. They're very deficient in the skill player positions in the AFC North. They need more. I hope in the second or third round, or even both, they come back and hit wide receiver. They need some playmakers. The running back, I think they need a backup running back. I think you can address that still in free agency. They need a lot of offensive players. Where do you think they go in rounds 2 or 3? Or 2 and 3, I should say.
I would almost guarantee they're going to wide receiver in round 2. Again, I like Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett's a good player. I think he's a good fit for what they're going to want to do. I don't think there was a receiver that was going to be worth the 20th overall pick, certainly not ahead of Kenny Pickett. So it's a position they needed to address, but 6 of them went to this point, right? Dotson went right. Like 16 overall.
Let me cut you off real quick. Neal. Let me cut you off real quick. I just got a text from a non-football fan, right? One of the parents of one of the players on my daughter's soccer team. She texts me, small hands. So
this rap, huh?
What I want to say is, look, just I'm not a quarterback whisperer by any means, but when you have a non-football soccer mom text you small hands, how big of an issue is it that Kenny Pickett has small hands?
It is a concern to some degree. Okay. Let's be honest. Everybody knows about the small hands thing for every single joke that we can't really say here that comes with it. Pickett fumbled 37 times in his career. He played in cold weather. He wore gloves. All these things indicate to some degree the size of his hands is something of an issue. Don't tell me it isn't. I'm not saying it's everything. Don't tell me that it's not an issue. They wouldn't make this big a deal of it if it wasn't. In fact, they're showing it right now. Louis Riddick is demonstrating your hand on the football where it needs to be, and why the size of the hand is going to matter in throwing. It's not delivering the ball as much as it's holding on to it when you're being hit.
Right.
That's a problem. When your hand gets wet, it's cold, things contract. You need that bigger hand to maintain, authoritative grip on the ball.
Right.
He's not going to have that. His hand's not going to get bigger. If he wants to continue wearing gloves, that's fine. Pickett doesn't have a howitzer of an arm anyway. It's not that crucial. He delivers the ball where it needs to go. He's smart. He can run RPO. He's got some scrambling ability. Pickett's a good prospect. I legitimately thought he would have been drafted higher than 20. I did not think he was going to be on the board.
He's the best slider in football. That's for sure.
We're going to hear all about that too.
The matrix slide. He's the absolute best slider. Me and Neal just been talking about the draft. I don't want to ignore everybody that's in on the live chat. I want to thank everybody that's on the live chat. Let me give you guys some updates. Me and Neal are going to still do a show on Saturday, normal time, 8:30. I may come on a little bit later tomorrow and give my thoughts on the second round draft picks. I'll try to touch base with Neal. Maybe you'll hop in with me, but I do want to do a little quick something to talk about the second round picks. But man, Kenny Pickett, I did not think tiny hands as Super Steelers.
Tiny
So,
hands.
tiny phalanges would be the tiny hands. Tiny hands.
That's just terrible.
As Steeler Freak
Tiny
says,
hands.
I can testify that no matter what one does, no part of the body gets bigger. That's not true. That is not true, Steelers Freak. If you take steroids, your head will get bigger. I watched Barry
Other
Bonds'
things get
head
smaller.
gets bigger. I watched Barry Bonds' head get bigger over the course of several years. Um, I'm happy that they got the quarterback. I mean, you need a quarterback to play. And in this division, if you have no quarterback, I mean, it's just going to stand out. If they think Kenny Pickett's the guy, they've seen a ton of Kenny Pickett. I mean, the scout on they have to be very comfortable with Kenny Pickett. I mean, they've seen a ton of them. So I'm happy with the pick. I think they've addressed an obvious need. And I like it. I've always worry about ceiling and floor and because look, can a guy play? Do you think a guy can play? Do you think he's coachable? Do you think you can develop the guy into being better than what he is right now? If they think that that's Kenny Pickett, it's Kenny Pickett, Mr. Small Hands, as as he's already
Just an
tiny
update.
mitts.
Just an update to Lance. Kevin Colbert is speaking to the media right now, and he just said, never thought Kenny Pickett would be there at 20. And I agree with him. I never thought that would have been an option. I don't know. It's weird. Huge run on wide receivers, a lot of linemen on both sides of the ball. Things happen that way.
Do you think we're actually only going to get one quarterback drafted in this first round?
I've been wrong on absolutely everything regarding the quarterbacks in this draft, so I'm not going to say. I don't. For the life of me, if there's one quarterback that you need to take in the first round, it's Malik Willis. You need that option year.
Yes, that's a great
You have
point.
to develop him, and you need to be able to keep him cheap after, he doesn't play for 2 of his 4 cheap years. You don't want him hitting extension after 1 season of quality starting time. You've got to have that option for him. Somebody might trade back up, I guess. I'm trying to think of who was even left, who traded where. I lost track. There have been so many trades here.
Yeah, there's been so many trades. And one thing I think we've seen also as well, man, is the quarterback, the wide receiver market has been totally rearranged.
Yeah, we're not done yet. Christian Watson could get drafted still, which frankly I thought he would go before Burks.
You still got
Green Bay is still going to be there, and Kansas City, one of their 2 picks just went. They just took McDuffie out of Washington, the cornerback.
Baltimore's drafting. Dallas won't draft a quarterback. Buffalo won't draft a quarterback. Tennessee could take Willis maybe at 26.
Traded 26.
Okay, so you can't see Tampa Bay take. Maybe Tampa Bay takes the quarterback that'll play behind Tom Brady.
I can see that.
You could see that there.
But Minnesota is at 32 after their kind of odd trade with the Lions, and they have 34 as well. So to be honest with you, I bet they would take him. I don't think he gets past 32.
I think you could be right there. I mean, I think that would be a great move for some team to get the developmental player, because it seems like your guy in Minnesota keeps signing 100% guaranteed contract, Kirk Cousins, and keeps getting paid.
Yep.
And so he keeps getting more money than anybody's gotten probably in the last few years. But I'm happy with the pick. I don't like the great picks. But so I'll toss it to you. Because we never know if these guys can play or not. But
that's not what you're grading.
Yeah, but so
grading simply on what we know right now, I'd give it an A. I think Pickett's a good player. You took him at 20 overall, not 4. He's familiar with big time competition. He's played a lot. He was an absolute stud last season. He checks every box, to use that cliche. I except for the hands thing, which I get. But again, you're drafting him at 20 overall. I'll say this. Somebody made a really great point earlier on Twitter that I saw. Taking a quarterback who has a 50% chance of being absolute shit and being great is far better of a move than taking a running back anywhere. Okay, you need a quarterback in this league. The Steelers have a quarterback. They have a very good handle on who that quarterback is. They have great access to his coaches. He's a high character guy, and he's a pretty damn good athlete. He moves around well enough. He's got good enough of an arm. He's a smart guy. He can make every throw that you need. And if he's better than Mitch Trubisky, probably now, and very well could take over for them at some point this season. So you're going to get him for a long time. I didn't think there was a way in the world he was going to be available at 20.
You know,
So for me, it's an A. It's a fantastic pick.
let me ask you: Did Luke Easterling get this right? Did he say Pickett?
I think he said Desmond Ritter,
Yes, he said
which
Desmond Ritter.
again goes to show really what the quarterbacks ended up being valued in comparison to many prominent mock drafts. I know that Mel Kiper sent Willis to the Steelers at 20, but Pickett tended to be the one who went first, and it was before the Steelers were on the clock.
Marcus
And the
J.
Bills have made a trade.
Marcus J. Man, he was crying. He's going to lay it all down there for the nation. I'm sure these guys, I'm confident in what the Steelers did with the pick. I think, like you said, and maybe your words will change my thought on giving draft grades, because you're right. You can't draft whether it's going to be successful. I think maybe you could take
It's
a
just
step
based
back
on
and
what
say,
we know now.
yeah, what you know now, and their needs. So I think it's
Yeah.
fair. I think you've convinced me in terms of their needs. They absolutely needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
to get a player that they've well scouted, that they clearly think was the best player, then I think they probably hit an A, getting him at 20. So what it also says is they think he is probably the more ready player as well. And, for Steeler fans, you should be happy. The rebuild doesn't take as long if you don't go for the developmental prospect with the high ceiling. So you get a guy with a little bit of a lower ceiling that can play right now. And so, we need to get out of here as the comments in the board keeps getting worse and worse as they keep smashing Kenny Pickett on his hands. Neal, I want to thank you for hopping in. I know it's very busy for you in terms of the draft. I know you guys got a ton of stuff going on since you are still the man, the maestro for the Wire Network. I'm sure you guys got a ton of stuff going on for these next 3 or 4 days. So I want to thank you for hopping on. Hit me tomorrow.
Let's do it.
And we'll try to do something. It'll probably be a little bit later. I have some things going on, traveling and some things going on tomorrow evening. Actually, what time is the draft tomorrow? Maybe we can do it before I have my dinner plans. I'm not sure what the time of the draft is with the 3 days.
I think it starts 4 p.m. Pacific. If I can go back, I'm pretty sure it's 6 Central tomorrow because they got 2 rounds to get through.
Before we get out of here, I always have to say, hey, Felicia, welcome back to the program. And Fifi is mad. What the F, mind blowing. They had so many options. I need a few days to pass before I can celebrate this. I'm just saying. But with that, no better way to end the program. As always, want to thank you guys for hopping on and showing support for the show. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.